Last 2 weeks, we covered about being spiritual, and we also covered about death for those who attended or for those who watched the recording. And when we talk about death, or when the Buddha talk about death, it's about the deconstruction of things, not just this physical form, but deconstruction of everything. It could be deconstruction of life, deconstruction of phenomenon, could be mental phenomenon or physical phenomenon. Whatever thing mental, or if it exists in a physical form, in Pali it's called nama rupa. They're all subject to disintegration. And that is the nature of existence. Things come to be through causes and conditions. They sustain for a while, and then they cease to be. They stop again. It's the same for some meditation techniques or certain meditation experiences, right? Especially when you go into more esoteric or energetic kind of practices, you generate it. Even if you're a seasoned practitioner, you still need to do some preliminaries. And preliminaries could be as simple as just sitting down, resting the body, right? So it means to set the stage, set the conditions to be there, to allow energies to come through, to allow your practice to take off. And then they sustain for a while, and then they cease to be after either a few hours after your meditation or the next day. So you see the rising and falling of things. This is the nature of life. Things appear to come and they rest for a while, just like clouds in the sky, and then they dissolve, they transform into something else. Or you could say that the cloud appears to disappear. When we talk about positive and negative feelings, emotions, or states of mind, in society, we are very focused on the negatives. Say things like, I'm depressed, I'm having moments of anxiety, I have the inner critic screaming at me, saying I'm not good enough. Sadness, excitement, joy, all kinds of emotions. But when we start focusing on the negatives, right, people can get caught up in them. Those loops, endless loops of, take anger, for example. When someone is angry, they say things that they don't mean or that they regret later, and then they get angry at themselves for getting angry, for becoming a victim of anger. You see, we can catch when we are feeling negative states of mind as they arise, or when we're already caught up in them, we can notice them. The question is, do we notice them when they are about to dissolve and eventually dissolve completely, the moment where they cease to be, when anger disappears, when depression disappears, anxiety, sadness, stress disappears, or even fear disappears? Are we able to notice them right when they disappear? When we are faced with certain emotions, sometimes we wish that those emotions will go away because we want to be better versions of ourselves, because we don't want to be seen as the kind of weak person or angry person or unreliable. But then when they disappear, why is it that we are not able to identify that it has disappeared? So where is the mind? That is the ultimate question. What is the mind looking at? What is the mind inclined towards? Is it inclined towards problem solving or problem detecting? Is it inclined towards happiness? Or is it inclined towards life itself? Sometimes when we are going through ups and downs, we are facing obstacles, undesirable situations, we might wish for certain situations to go away, certain states of mind to go away, right? We want life to improve. We want life to change. We want things to change. We want to be better. And when they disappear, can we notice the non-unpleasant feelings? And that is to say, the pleasant feelings or the neutral feelings, there's a result of the end of suffering. When the Buddha taught about the Four Noble Truths, that in life there is suffering, and there's a cost that creates suffering, and that is craving, right? When we crave for certain experiences, certain happenings. And that's what causes us to suffer because we are not appreciative or we are not focused in the present moment anymore. And with craving comes attachment, clinging, longing for certain things, and holding on to things, having fear of losing precious moments or precious happenings. So all this can result in disturbances in the mind. And that's what the Buddha meant by dukkha, suffering. Then there is also the end of suffering when that craving disappears, when we let go of that clinging. There is peace. I believe that we are all very great at noticing suffering, be it suffering within ourselves or suffering in others. And are we able to appreciate the non-suffering moments when suffering has ceased to be, and to introspect what caused the end of suffering? And after ending that moment of suffering, are we able to rejoice and reset, be at peace and be at ease? Or does life just flash past until the next problem happens? The next negative mental state happens. So we can all invite ourselves to look at life deeply. That is to see everything as they are. There's good times, there's bad times, there's mental turmoil, and also there's peace and clarity. A lot of people seek for peace. They can be seeking for peace outside, it could be a vacation, or they think that getting what they want can bring them peace. Or they think that after they've meditated to a certain point, they can get peace. Or after they have transformed and overcome their suffering, they can have peace. But the problem lies in not being able to dwell in peace. See, we're very good at thinking about what can give us happiness, be it worldly or spiritual happiness. That doesn't matter. The problem is not being able to dwell in happiness for too long, not being able to dwell in peace for too long. But we are very good at dwelling in suffering for a very, very long time, and to notice when we are dwelling in suffering. Last week, we mentioned about the original desire when we were born. The original desire is to survive. Right at the moment when we're being born, everyone that's around was trying to keep us alive. And it's about survival. And that's what we learned when we were born. And it could still be in us, that karmic energy of needing to survive. Well, we've lived through decades, and we can also cultivate the habit of living, being alive. So just be in touch with life, and to see that life has peaceful moments, and it's a great thing to be alive. See, everything rises and stays for a while, and then they disappear. They cease to be. It may come to a point in time where we start questioning, what are we exactly doing in life? Are we chasing after the highs and trying to get away from the lows? We may tell ourselves such philosophical ideas that we're going to maintain equanimous over everything. But if you look at our habits, our reactivity, our behaviors, we might not be applying the Dharma correctly. So it's not to say that since everything will eventually cease to be, that we don't acquire. Understand that living as lay people in the world, we're not monks and nuns. We do need some comforts. We need some convenience in order to go on living. Right? We need a roof over our heads. We have bills to pay. We have people whom we are responsible towards. But that is not the purpose in life. If that is the purpose and meaning of life, and who will want to sign up to be human? And who will want to sign up to be alive? When we're here just to pay bills, survive, or provide for others. Whether one is poor or rich, there's always an act of service that we're giving to others. It's like how leaders will try to impact the world, create livelihood for others, skill sets for others. But all these things will cease to be, no matter how much we reflect on them, no matter how much we rejoice in them, or even the good things that we've done. Because when you pass away, people might talk about you, good things about you at your funeral, right? Your loved ones will cry, but after a month, they will have moved on with their lives. Your loved ones would go back to school, go back to work, and continue pursuing what they were pursuing. So you see, all these things that we do, sometimes we identify ourselves with them, thinking that, oh, this is me, this is my status, this is my reputation. People see me as this, people see me as that. But when we die, does it really matter? Because I don't think people is going to say bad things about you at your funeral. They only have good things to say. And the things that we never know when we're going to breathe our last. So when we meditate, when you get back on the cushion, to really settle and say, I'm taking some me time, I'm going to be at ease, I want to restore myself, I want to go back to peace, you can also come with an idea of letting go. That we've done a lot of things throughout the day. We thought a lot, right? We felt many kinds of feelings. And it's time to release our grasp onto them. To release our grasp onto them is because we can understand that they're impermanent. And everything that we're doing is subject to change. They will disintegrate, they will deconstruct. And when we get back into the world, we go back to try to acquire things again. We just need to know why we're doing it and to be accountable to it. That it comes with its own sets of stresses. And we have no one else to blame other than ourselves if we suffer too much. So if we can look at the life of Buddha himself, we're able to practice today. And the whole is able to get in touch with mindfulness was thanks to the Buddha. He gained enlightenment at the age of 35, and he taught for 45 years. That's a very long time. His whole career was about teaching. That's why we have the teachings available today that we can apply to our lives and we can learn. If you look at the scriptures, the Buddha didn't just teach monks and nuns. He taught householders. He taught the rich, the poor. He taught virtuous people. He even taught rapists and murderers. A very dynamic kind of audience that he has, I would say. And he taught kings as well. He taught rulers who probably have huge egos, who thinks that they know better than anyone. He helped to resolve political issues through wisdom and compassion. He had a lot of roles, and he still went on to do it just simply because he's alive and he has the wisdom to do so, and he has the energy to go out and teach. So we reflect on our lives and kind of try to mirror the Buddha into ourselves. Simply recollect the Buddha, how he start his morning. In the scriptures, he would always sit and then he will meditate. Right? But he has the divine eye, the perfected divine eye. He will scan and see where he needs to go to give teaching to certain people. And that is his career, if you put it that way. And similarly, like the Buddha, all of you have careers as well, right? We want to do some good in the world through the service that you're providing. But the difference between the Buddha and us is that sometimes we get caught up in those projects. That we are caught up with success and failure. And Buddha wasn't caught up in it. There were people who ignored the Buddha. There were people who stood up and left because they didn't understand what the Buddha was saying or they disagreed with the Buddha. Right? But the Buddha didn't come back and complain. He didn't feel sad. He wasn't upset. Suffering did not come to be because he had no craving. He had no craving for pleasant experiences. He had no craving for reciprocation. He had no craving for status and fame. Every evening, after giving his discourse to his monks and nuns, which means to come back to his loved ones or his family, for him it's a spiritual family. And after that, he would go back and meditate again, right? Just to reset. So you see, we're not so different, right? We meditate in the morning and then we meditate in the evening. And every week we come and we try to nourish one another, to share our experiences, share our difficulties, to be nourished by not just a Sangha, but also receive some insights and teachings, right? We're not so different from how the monastics and the Buddha lived 2,500 years ago. As mentioned, the Buddha had great responsibilities. He had to take care of the entire Sangha, and he had to help different kinds of people through his wisdom. We can ask ourselves, how did the Buddha go through this, having so much responsibilities? And there were also people who wanted to murder him. There were people who slandered him, accused him, and all that kind of stuff. He dealt with a lot of bullshit. But to be able to keep that peace, where was the understanding coming from within the Buddha? You see, the Buddha wouldn't have taught if he didn't believe that everyone would be able to achieve the same state as him. That's the whole reason why he decided to teach, because he identified that there were people who's going to be receptive to his teachings and can get to the same level of enlightenment as his. It's regardless of gender, regardless of race, and all that. That's why every time in the morning chanting, we say that he taught out of compassion for future generations. So when we meditate, especially in the evening, knowing that we've gone through so much during the day, we can start to release our grasp onto things, onto the idea of perfection, the idea of pleasantness and pain. Because all these things are conditioned, and with the right conditions, they will cease to be as well. And we can't hold on to them forever. We can have some gratitude practice to reflect on the day of what went right, what has been good. And then after we let go of them. Then we can also reflect on what we've done wrong and aspire to improve tomorrow. But ultimately, we're going to let go of them. We have to let go of them. It's something that we can't bring with us. But we cling on to them. And society, our loved ones, right? All of them will go one day. It's either before us or after us. Whatever revolutionary idea that we have, everything is going to be able to help the world, impact the world, transform the world, save the world. The world is still going to end one day. Or maybe your impact won't last more than 300 years. Right? Things change. Now, in the next 300 years, there will be different people coming in to innovate and different people coming in to harm the environment. So it's not to say to stop doing what you're doing, but it is to understand the output that we give, the importance that we give. We have to understand that whatever impact there is, it's also impermanent. And we can release our grasp onto them. And then we will suffer less. And that's where we can truly come back to ourselves. And to also notice that we ourselves are impermanent. And it's empty by nature. And then when we wake up in the morning, we can also reflect that everything just appears to come and go. But in their essence, they are also equally empty of inherent nature, of intrinsic existence. And that there are other beings, a lot of sentient beings that are still subject to suffering like ourselves. Then we can motivate ourselves to live more compassionately because we share the world. And that's all. Actually, practice is that simple. Living the Dharma life is actually really that simple. It's about just seeing things as they are and coming to terms with things as they are. Not just looking for problems to solve, not just trying to wish away negative states of mind, but to see everything, how it arises, how it stays for a while, and most importantly of all, to notice the depth of that event.